What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be reviewing Port Adelaide's inaugural AFLW season, the first chapter on what's going to be a fantastic book of history for the Port Adelaide women's team and a sensational first season for the club. Mind you, the results didn't go the way that probably we've wanted, but in saying that, it was a competitive outfit that never gave up, and I think that's the tagging headline of this season. So let's dive in, talk about the good, the bad, and what can be improved for Chapter 2 of Port Adelaide's AFLW team. So to summarise the season, in the 10 rounds we played against 10 other teams we played out of the 18. Our first season in the AFLW, it was a topsy-turvy season, one that had close finishes, one that had a couple of blowouts, but overall a pretty competitive outfit the Port Adelaide Football Club were in the AFLW, finishing with one win that came against Sydney at Alberton Oval by 10 goals. It was 8 losses and 1 draw against the Carlton Footy Club. So very easily the season as a whole could have been 3, 4, 5 wins. You know, we had close losses to Hawthorn, we had the Carlton draw, St Kilda loss, the Gold Coast comeback that we had. We were in multiple games throughout the season, and it was really, really competitive to see. We never gave up. Things didn't go our way in certain aspects, but we still gave it our all, and there was plenty of positives throughout the season. You know, the team was led by Erin Phillips, who for every single game just gave it her all and really led the side, I thought. Didn't kick a goal for the season. She kicked 0 goals, 6 behinds, and although that might count as 1 goal to equal to, not the season she would have liked, and I think her impact on the year was hit and miss. You know, I'm not here to criticise the playing group as such, because they're learning, they're coming to grips with each other. You know, they had an 8-week pre-season. Like, you had 8 weeks to develop a team. Lauren Arnell did a fantastic job. I thought her messaging was great throughout the season. And for the 8 weeks you had pre-season to develop a team, to develop the stocks that we had. Obviously, injuries that were coming through. We got to see some fresh faces, stories. You know, you had Cousins and Teakle. You had sisters in Dersma. You had the Cockatoo Motlap sisters. You know, it's things like that were really grabbing and eye catching for the story and the headlines that our first season was in Chapter 1, as the Port Adelaide Football Club have been calling it. You know, I think it's been a really phenomenal first year, and regardless of results, as I said, I really felt like we took a massive step into developing for season 2, and the competitive nature is there, the base is there. I really feel like momentum for the year was hit and miss, but overall there's a base there. As I said, there's a real something to build from. You know, we've laid the concrete slab, and now we're ready to build the house. Like, it's fantastic to see, and I think overall that was a pretty positive first year to win. We got the win. I think that's the main thing. We got a win. You know, the draw would have been handy to have a couple of wins, but you know, noticeable standouts as well from the playing group. The senior figures, you know, I mentioned Erin Phillips. Ange Foley was fantastic as vice captain. I thought Indy Tahoe was absolutely amazing in her first year, and probably very, very close to being our best and fairest. Maloney was great. I thought Ebony O'Day just continued to be competitive, continued to be a resilient key factor in our defensive line. And then you move up forward. You know, I think Gemma Houghton really proved to be potent. We had players that really still looked like they could develop, and you know, young Johnson who come into the side, and I think you know, as I said, the Motlap sisters, they were fantastic to see, and you know, I really think there's a lot of development there, and the one main factor from that development, it's going to be Hannah Ewing. She's a phenomenal footballer. Like, she is a very, very talented. Now, I'm not going to compare men's to women's football. It's a completely different aspect. She has a bright future in the AFLW, and I hope she stays at the footy club for a very, very long time, because she's a very good chance for the rising star. I think she's a very good chance for the best and fairest for Port Adelaide, and I think, you know, she's going to be a very, very potent figure in the AFLW landscape for many, many years. And I think, you know, she's just one player that you just sit there and you watch and think, you're 18 years old, you're doing this stuff against, you know, grown women. You know, you are a fighting figure in a club that's standing on its first legs for the first time, taking a walk into a competition, didn't know what to expect, and she's shown like the star she was. So absolutely phenomenal to see what she brought to the footy club this year, and another pre-season under her belt. You know, and that's the same with everyone else on the list, and you know, who we can target in the draft and the pre-season with the trade period as well. You know, there is so much upside to this football club and to the AFLW and this team that, you know, I think from a first year's perspective, whilst you can start judging the playing group and really take a critical analysis on the list, there's plenty to work with. And I think that's what a lot of people forget. There's a lot of that mindset of the AFL men's and how we all think as fans of the men's team. And I think to carry that over into the AFLW is just not what you want. You need a fresh look. You need a fresh mindset with this. And that's what the whole playing group's going to be about. It's a fresh mindset. The list management will be thinking about it. And you know, as I said, there's a lot to improve on. I think the one key factor, if there's one factor to look at across the off-season, it's definitely skills. You know, we're not going to shy away from that. It's not the most skillful looking game style that we play. I think the ground basis is there to play that short momentum footy, you know, push it forward and looking for a target inside 50. You know, I think we've got to learn to use our hands a bit more, and really, it's almost like we've got to get the footy to the goal line to kick a goal, and that's not what you want in footy. So I think focusing on those skills, hitting that 15 to 20 metre kick, hitting that 45-degree angle, you know, 30-metre switch, or you know, you're going down the line, looking for a big pack. Make sure you're playing the percentages, pushing it towards the boundary line, not coming inside to the corridor, and really, you know, slowing momentum down when possible. I think the pressuring factor as well is a really, really elite part of our game style, but it's not when it's at the contest. It's more so when we do it in play, when the ball's moving. That's when we lack a bit of pressure. And I think, you know, you got 2 or 3 standing around a player with a footy. You know, you don't want that to be let out and an easy quick kick inside 50. You know, I've noticed every game that we've watched, there's always been that out the back kick. And obviously, if it was a men's game, and I'm not going to compare the two, but if it was a men's game and you had a player out the back alone from a quick kick, can't say that, from a quick kick from a stoppage into the defensive 50, and you've got a loose opposition player, in the men's, they're kicking that. Obviously, with the women's, there's a few more fumbles and everything like that, so that you take that with a grain of salt. But I'm just saying that that's going to become costly, and it did become costly in certain games. And you know, I think we could have very easily ended up with 4 or 5 wins for the year, as I said, with the close games. And it's just those little things you have to tinker with. I'm not here to criticise the season, and I'm going to state that as a very big, bold factor, because overall I was I was smiling every time we played. I thought we were a resilient club, a resilient group of players that never gave up. You know, we were competitive for 4 quarters. We might have faded away. We might have had a couple of games where we didn't kick goals to the last quarter, or you know, we had a goalless showdown, and that was the biggest disappointment of the year. Is to be not really competitive in the showdown. We just didn't kick a goal, but you know, the classness of the Adelaide Crows and the AFLW is second to none. So I'm not going to take anything away from that. I do feel like that next time we owe them one. So hopefully that's another thing that we improve across the off season, especially with a big focus on that game. You know, besides that, we never gave up in each and every game. We were always competitive. We always hit the tackles. We always made sure that we were first to the footy, and if we weren't, we were there to lay the tackle at the second. As soon as the opposition picked that up, I think overall that's the biggest positive for me. Was it was competitive 10 games of footy. We never gave up, and we showed a real nature of footy that I want to see in the men's. So, you know, you can compare the two as gaming styles that are vastly different. But if you brought the gaming style that we wanted to play in the AFLW, and you brought that type of pressure to the men's side, we'll be playing finals. So you can pick and choose, and you can compare, you can criticise AFLW and AFL men's. It's very different competitions that you can't compare individual players. But if you want to compare gaming styles and how you want to perform, you get to take a few from the AFLW team and you chuck it in the men's, because if we had a bit more competitive nature and hit a few more tackles in the men's side like we do in the women's, we're winning more games than we lose. Overall, Port fans, that is my review of the season that was for the AFLW team, Port Adelaide Power. How's that? First year, 1 win, 8 losses and a draw, and finishing 17th. We're going to turn that into a finals performance next year, I hope, because this team has got a lot of upside, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we can bring next year. A full pre-season under the belt. I'm giving it an A, because regardless, it's the first season, and I'm not going to take anything away from the girls. Absolutely phenomenal. I've developed a few favourite players. I've really been invested in the side each and every game, and I hope you guys jump on board for season 2, because I feel like there's a lot more to bring with this team, a lot more stories to tell, and a lot more reviews and previews for next year. So hopefully we all jump on board and get around the coverage that is the AFLW, because it deserves to have more in the competition. The only way it can improve is from the fans investing and making sure they're supporting their side. So jump on board for season 2. But in that, congratulations to the Port Adelaide footy side in the AFLW for a fantastic season 1. Thank you so much for watching this season review. My name is Anthony, and always, oh, by the way, subscribe to the channel. We're nearly 5,000, so click that button. Anyway, subscribe to The Pear. My name's Anthony, and as always, count the pair.